Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about another vampire from Irish folklore, which could also have been an inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Let's take a look at the Darach Dubh. The legend of the Darach Dubh begins with a young maiden. She was of incredible beauty. Her name is sadly lost to the time, but what was handed down are the tales of her virtues. She was kind and loving, and never wanted anything more than to marry the man she loved and spend her life with him. Her father, however, was pretty much the opposite of her. Though he was a fairly wealthy man and could have been proud of the woman his daughter became and let her be happy with the peasant guy she fell in love with, he was so full of greed for money and land, and he was so ruthless that he refused to let her marry a poor peasant boy, be it her true love or not. Instead, he sold her off to the clan's chieftain for a fair amount of money and land. But the chieftain, her new husband, was a cruel man, incapable of love. He treated her like a possession and was jealous enough that he didn't want anyone else to be near her or even see her. And so he imprisoned her in a room to hide her from the world. And there she was, alone. At first she hoped that her true love would come and rescue her, but the only one she saw was her husband. And even her husband only came to feed her and to bleed her. He loved to push a knife to her fair white neck, pushing harder and harder until a soft flow of blood ran down her neck. She hated it. She hated him, and as the days, weeks, months went by, she lost all hope for anything but sadness and despair in her life. And as she lost her will to live, she slowly withered away. Some say she poisoned herself, others say she hung herself, but most likely she just stopped eating, slowly starving herself to death. Her funeral was a lonely one. Her husband didn't attend, for even before she was buried, he already had a new wife. And her father? Well, he didn't seem to care enough to attend the funeral, nor did anyone else from her family. Only her true love stood at her grave, mourning her death and his inability to help her. Each day he came, and each day he mourned the loss of this fair young maiden. Back in those times, it was custom to put a pile of heavy stones on top of a grave, so that the dead wouldn't rise again. But for some reason, nobody put any on her grave. Some say it's because the townfolk were so ashamed that they hadn't helped her, and that they now didn't want to bring more shame to her. Others say it was because she was such a kind being, and again others say that nobody cared enough to pile the stones up. What nobody knew was that with her last breath she cursed her cruel husband and her selfish father, and vowed to get her revenge and to finally be reunited with her true love. And so, at the eve of the first anniversary of her death, the former fair and kind maiden clawed her way from the coffin up to the surface of the earth. Her heart burning with anger and hate, she sought to fulfill her vow and to take her revenge. The first one to feel her hatred was her father, who never lost a tear for her fate. As he slept peacefully, she made her way into his bedchamber, placed her pale bloodless lips on his, and sucked his life force out of his body. But that was only her first victim. After she killed her father, she made her way to her former husband. As she arrived, she found him with his new wife, treating her as bad, if not worse than her, and she bursted into rage. She approached him, and as his new wife saw her, she ran away screaming, while he stood there in shock. Instead of sucking his life force, she decided to do to him as he did to her, and so she ran her teeth into his neck and sucked every last drop of his blood out of his body. But in doing so, she became something else. She became the Darek Due, the Red Thirst. She felt the blood running through her veins, giving her power and energy. She became stronger and faster and immortal. But the moment the blood had run down her throat, she had forgotten about her true love, and instead of love, only felt a thirst for blood that should never be satisfied. Since then, she rises every year on the anniversary of her death to seduce young men and luring them to her grave, to suck their life's blood. The only way to stop her is to finally put a pile of stones on her grave while she's in it to imprison her once again. But how do you want to do that if you don't know the day of her death, or even her name, or even the location of her grave? Thank you very much for listening. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up, and if you want to know more about Irish mythology or spooky stories from Celtic mythology, check out my other videos. See you next time. Bye!